Okay. All praise, Lord. Now it's most certainly due to the Most High. God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, peace to you in the name of his Son. Again, I count it truly a blessing each and every single time that I can come before the priest word of God and never do account it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, let's try this again. I want to respond to a comment that a sister made about the lesson that I just did on marriage. And the sister brings up some good points that I want to address. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the question and then I'll respond. Okay, so as I've been watching you for years and you have to do a lesson like this, she's referring to the one I did most recently on marriage. That was yesterday. You have to do a lesson like this every time you answer a question on marriage, every 10 to 15 months, like clockwork. People are not going to like what the Bible has to say pertaining to marriage. I totally agree with you, but I feel like a lot of people are not mentally ready for marriage biblically. And their wants for sex, for looking to become a wife, has caused them to choose unwisely on who they become one with. And that's a good point the sister made there. Peace, brother, again, brother Isaiah and brother Nicodemus. It's good to see both of you. We had a storm up this way, so that might have been why it had a little outage because things went out pretty windy. It came back kind of slow, so hopefully we can get through this. And with that, I want to respond to what the sister had to say, and I'm going to pick it up in 2 Timothy. Okay, because one thing is, as a preacher, it's my job to teach people. And these questions on, it's not just marriage, it's about going to heaven, it's about death and the resurrection, it's about the law, about there being no rapture. It's so many subjects that I go over and over and over and over again. There are roughly, just under, I think like maybe 10 or 15 videos, I'm not exactly sure, away from 2,000 videos. Israel Teaches at page is 11 years old. I've been on YouTube for 11 years. So, sir, it's not just the subject of marriage that comes up. Biblical subjects in general always come up. There are subjects that I do much more than even marriage. And one thing about it is because a lot of times people just coming into it, they don't know they have a question. So it's new to them. Other people that have bad doctrine, so when you tell them what the Bible has to say, they are triggered and have cognitive dissonance. And so I answer their questions to be a benefit to them. Hopefully they will take heed, but also to other people. Like, for example, like the question about 400 years. That's a question we're answering for years. Is the 400 years referring to America? Somebody came on here and said 400 years is, it's going to be up on August 21st. We almost there. I guess they thought I forgot. I ain't letting it ride. I'm going to address it again. When we still here, he said, we're going to be gone. I'm going to address it. Why? Because people need to hear it over and over and over again. Educated by trade, one thing I realize is that it's through repetition that people get true understanding. It's like if you read something, it's certain books that I have read, oh my goodness, I don't know how many times, dozens of times, literally, certain books. And one thing what happens is your understanding will grow every time you read it. So you'll pick up something new. The word of God, I'm in the word every day. And one thing I understand, it's so deep. It's so deep. It's not like you're going to get to the bottom. It's so deep. And then as you continue, your understanding continues to grow, you gain understanding. So as a teacher, I gain understanding. And then I know the people are in need of understanding. And they need to hear the things repeatedly, because it's like you'll hear something one time and then you don't really, it doesn't register. And then the next time you hear it, and then the next time, before you know, you get a better understanding. One thing again like that is the feast days that come around once a year, and how they revisit how I understand. I know how my understanding of the feast days has grown over the years. I've been in the word almost 20 years. So it's grown. And so, that's because I'm constantly going over it. So studying it in a way to teach it, I know you got to go over it because the word of God is so vast. Let alone if you're a hearer trying to learn from somebody who's teaching. So with that, I want to pick up something in 2 Timothy, the 3rd chapter, verse 16, and see what he said about the scripture. He says in verse 15, he says that from a child that has known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus. But then he says something. All scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness. So that's what I use it for. He said that the man of God may be perfect, thoroughly furnished into all good works. That's what I use it for. And it's something that you deal with when you're dealing as a teacher. You have to go over the same things over and over again. And we're gonna look at some examples real quick of that in the text. That's because the sister said you have to go over this of a marriage by every 10 to 15 months. Well, when the question come up, I deal with it. And if you notice, the lessons are in a cycle. Some of the lessons, like I did a lesson last Sabbath, the last Adam. I did the last Adam. I had never done that lesson. But the lessons come up about every year and a half. Nevertheless, she's in Jude, chapter 1, it's only one verse. And let's see some here. Just take heed to what's written here. It says, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this. So now, Jude, the half brother of Jesus, is telling them something that they already are familiar with. He says, I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt, afterward destroyed them that believe not. I'm going to bring it to your remembrance. They know it, but I'm going to tell you again. And then he gives you some other examples, like the angels that fell from heaven and like what happened at Sodom and Gomorrah. These are examples. You need to continue to visit those things. Let's go to 2 Peter. 2 Peter. 2 Peter, the 1st chapter, and I'll pick it up at verse 12. What does the Apostle Peter say? He says, wherefore I will not be negligent to put you always in remembrance of these things, though ye know them, and be established in the present truth. He said, I'm going to continue to tell the things that we've covered that you know. I'm not going to be negligent in not telling you about it. I'm going to put it on your mind and need to be reminded. I'm going to show you what people need to do that they don't do. Let's go to Psalms 119th division. Psalms 119th division. This is what people need to do, but they don't really understand this. But Psalms 119th division and verse 97. What David said, he said, oh, how love I thy law. It is my meditation all the day. So if you're thinking about the law all day long, every day, you're going to be going over those things so the word will seep down inside of you. That's what you need to do. It's not like I've heard, you know how many people have heard say, oh, I've read the Bible. They say, I've read the Bible. You read the Bible one time, look at the condition of this Bible. This Bible is falling apart. But understand, I had that Bible. This Bible here is the same exact one as this. Look at this condition of this Bible. Look at the condition of this Bible. You understand? And still have a whole lot to learn about what's in this book. Okay? Then in the other books I had, literally, it just fell apart because I'm steady reading it. And still got have a lot to learn. So, you have to go over these things repeatedly because people, again, People are like sheep, spiritually speaking. They have to be led in the proper way. And in order for that to take place, you have to keep reminding them. You have to keep showing them. Because what I found, and it's unfortunate, I say it all the time, that the basic things, I found that a lot of people who call themselves Israelites, they misunderstand the basic things. I mean, the basic tenets of the gospel. They have that misunderstood. So you have to go over the basic things, especially those things that will lead to salvation, especially those things that will impact your life, your everyday life, like marriage and who you choose to marry. Okay. Now the sister says something. So that's about the repetition, about me going over it she said every 10 to 15 months, like clockwork. I'm going over everything like that. Okay. Now, for the most part. Now she said, I totally agree with you, but I feel like a lot of people are not mentally ready for marriage because she talked about their desire for sex and they want to become a wife. That's causing them to choose unwisely. Well, see, the problem is that you can, when you do that, see, the Bible, you have to choose, you have to determine what's going to be authority. Is it what you say? Is it what this culture, this European has given you, what they say? And what they say is acceptable today? See, what I'm talking about seems archaic. What I'm talking about, I would be deemed as politically incorrect. See, feminism is the norm of the day. But when you look at what's the result of you going your way, you'll understand that you need to come this way. Let's go to Proverbs, the 3rd chapter. And this is a problem. Proverbs, the 3rd chapter and verse 1. It says, my son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. Then he says something, for length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. See, the reason people cannot have peace, the reason they are in toxic relationships, the reason that their life is in turmoil, the reason they suffer so much is because they have done away with his law. And even those who are in the truth will put their own desires and their own thinking ahead of what the scriptures in the New Testament text is telling them, thus bringing despair, a life of despair into themselves. So he says something in verse 5. He says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, with all thy mind. He said, and lean not unto thine own understanding. And that's what people are doing. I was watching a news clip today, and they were talking about these artists, and how the negative impact of some of these female artists on young women, and the sexualization of them. And you going that way, that's not going to be good in the end. You getting a little paper for acting whorish right now is not going to be good in the end. So he said, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. See, you by yourself on your own knowledge, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where to go. You in the dark. But his commandment is light. Let's go to Psalms 109, back to Psalms 119th division. And that's the problem. So she said people not mentally ready, but they're not mentally ready to just trust in the Lord, but trusting in the Lord and what he set forth will bring them peace. And doing the opposite will bring turmoil. Psalms 119th division. You can't have peace. Psalms 119 and 165. Listen to what he says. He said, great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. See, when you live in according to Torah, when you live in according to the mitzvah, or the law and the commandments, the instruction that he gave you, you can have some peace. But when you take what you have received in the Western world, you're going to have some turmoil. What's acceptable in the Western world is not acceptable before God. And that's your problem. I'm not talking to the sister personally. I'm saying us as a people. So again, he says, Great peace have they which love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. Let's go to 2 Corinthians. Because the sister talked about how sisters don't want to be by themselves. They don't want to be by themselves, and they desire for sex and to be with somebody. Well, listen, you better they choosing unwisely. That's something the sisters doing in the world. They choosing unwisely. So you choose the wrong person. Now you have kids. Now you end up by yourself. Now you end up economically destitute. Now you might end up abused. Now you end up in a situation that you don't want to be in because of your choice. And then on top of that, you don't want to be accountable. That's a bad combination. We have to be accountable for the actions that we engage in. This is 2 Corinthians, the 6th chapter. Because he says something. He says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. So when you talk about marriage, why would you go out and marry somebody who's not a believer? He said, for what fellowship have righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion have light with darkness? It's like the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fed and took them of wives which they chose. It's like what they did in the days of Ezra and Nehemiah. They took the women of those nations that were worshiping falsely as wives. He said, what concord hath Christ with Belial, and what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? He said, and what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? So if you are the temple of God, the Spirit is dwelling in you. Like the Spirit would be in the Lord would come. He was in the temple. So now now the Spirit, his Spirit is in you. But then you dealing with somebody, you become one with somebody who deal with idols. For ye are the temple of the living God, as God has said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come out from among them and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you. So now you're going to take this, or you're going to listen to what your flesh is telling you and what your finite mind is telling you. I'm going to choose him anyway. I'm going to choose her anyway. Look at her. She look good. I'm going to choose. I ain't saying that. Why you marry that person? Oh, man. You look at that can only take you so far. That can only take you so far. So, and you making those decisions in the law, like even, I know this gonna sound crazy to some. Again, like I was saying, the men and women are not equal in the marriage. The man is the head. The woman is the helpmeet. The woman's job is to submit. The husband's job is to love and to provide. That's totally contrary to what's put forth today. But you see the condition as we put aside what the Lord set forth, as we put aside his laws, we put aside the New Testament writings, as we put all that aside and do our own thing. What's our condition? What's our condition? Well, let's look at it real quick. So, just a few statistics. We have a 77.3% as of 2018, a 77.3% out of wedlock birth rate. Why is that a big deal? Now understand, that's a phenomenon that's going on not just amongst the so-called Negro, but it's going on amongst all groups for the most part in this United States, and it's even international. Because Western values have been accepted by many. So single motherhood is become acceptable. And you got it's no shame in single motherhood. Having a baby shower, yeah, it's a celebration. Where the father at? Oh, where the husband at? Oh, we don't know. Wait a minute. That's something that we should be celebrating this. Now, it's not the child's fault, but we shouldn't be celebrating this. This ain't nothing to celebrate. This is a shameful thing. This whole idea that I can raise, I can be mama and daddy, that's a lie. Somebody lied to you. You can't be mama and you have to get out of your, oftentimes have to get out of your natural disposition and take upon a masculine frame just to survive, just to make it and believe and be less than what you are, spiraling you into a mental state of chaos. To the point where can't nobody say nothing to you. To the point where you have a mean disposition. To the point where don't nobody want to be around you. To the point, or you had to struggle so much, but you made that decision. Why? Because somebody told you that was acceptable. Who told you that was acceptable? The Western world. That's not the Bible. The Bible's not telling you that. The Bible's not telling you that illegitimate children is all right. The Bible's not telling you that you could be, as a woman, could be sleeping around with everybody and then eventually marry somebody. That's not what it's telling you. The Bible's not telling you that that's your man and you his boss. The Bible's not telling you that. The Bible tells you are his helpmate. The Bible tells you to submit to him. The Bible tells him that he's supposed to provide for you. So if you look at a man, he is not in a position to provide for himself, how he gonna provide for you? A man is supposed to teach his children law, the Torah. So if he doesn't know God, what can, just even if he can provide, why would you choose him on the onset as a husband? You understand? And it's another thing, the greatest thing you could be is a mother. It's not some profession. But you have many women say, I don't want to have children. Not that I can't have them, because no, they don't want them. They'll put all these things, like it's like they have a plate. The steak, they have a plate of food, and the steak will be their career, and the potatoes will be their friends and other family members. Vegetables will be their hobbies and travel, and then the garnishment, I think I want to get married. Then that biological clock start ticking. You get to be 34, 35, 36, 37. Now you're talking about freezing some eggs. You done wasted your good years. You done been with all these men up until that point in these inappropriate relationships. But who told you that was okay? The Bible didn't tell you that. You man, who gonna clean up? Like in Coming to America, man, they came and dropped all them flowers. He said, man, who gonna clean up all these flowers? Who gonna clean up this mess? You made a mess of your life. You made a mess of your life and following something that's contrary to what's written. Lean into your own understanding. Men too. Like I said, choosing the wrong woman or not being men, not doing what they're supposed to do. So what's our state? 77.3% out of wedlock birth rate. So these children oftentimes without a stable father in their life are the ones that are most likely to fail in school, the most likely to end up in juvenile detention, get expelled and suspended from school, engage in violence, have teenage become pregnant as a teen, rather, be molested, have childhood obesity. Look at what's going on in Chicago right now. I always bring up Chicago. They just shot 21 people in DC. So now, when you look at what's going on in Chicago, I ain't even talking about just the murders. Somebody got